The Occoquan Radio Podcast is a private production and is not affiliated with the town of Occoquan. Opinions expressed on the podcast are solely those of its host and guests. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the June 15th, 2025 episode of the Occoquan Radio Podcast. I'm your host, Ernie Porta, bringing you 10 to 15 minutes of irregular, unscheduled updates on things Occoquan and beyond. We hope all of you fathers out there enjoyed Father's Day. We were off last weekend at the Occoquan Radio Podcast, but we're back, and on this episode we'll discuss some recent activities in town and in the area, discuss the anniversary of an important event in American history, tackle a common misunderstanding regarding that event, and close by reviewing upcoming activities in and around town. Make sure you don't miss an episode by searching for us on the podcasting app of your choice and hitting the subscribe button. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy this episode of the Occoquan Radio Podcast. I want to start this episode by thanking everyone who participated in and patronized our annual Spring RiverFest and Craft Show on June 7th and 8th. In particular, I especially want to thank the staff and volunteers who made it possible. Led by our new events coordinator, Tammy Hassett, and our town manager, Adam Lynn, the staff and volunteers put on a wonderful show despite the occasional threat and actual presence of rain. When anyone has complimented her on the show, Miss Hassett has been quick to note that it's a team effort and has been effusive in her praise of other town staff, our police, and the myriad volunteers who made it possible. While I can't mention you all by name here, in fact we had almost 90 volunteers, please know that on behalf of myself and the town council, we appreciate all of you and the substantial effort you exerted. Thank you as well to the some 300 vendors and town businesses who participated, the folks at Visit Occoquan who did so much great work in promoting the show, and everyone else who chose to attend. Without you, of course, it could not have been such a success. And I would like to also thank our previous events director, Julie Little, who recently retired. Julie worked on helping prepare the show right up to the formal date of her retirement, and Miss Hassett has pointed out to me how critical was Julie's involvement. One of the events held simultaneously with the RiverFest and Craft Show was the annual Occoquan River Paddle Challenge, which is the second paddle race in my three-part Mayor's Occoquan race series for stand-up paddleboard, surf ski kayak, and OC1 craft. The top male finisher in the stand-up paddleboard 10K race, which turned out to actually be about 6.5 miles, was Daniel Goff, who finished with a time of 1 hour, 14 minutes, and 39 seconds. The top female finisher in the stand-up paddleboard 10K race was Brenda Norman, with a time of 1 hour, 22 minutes, and 56 seconds. In the surf ski kayak category, Gabor Vida averaged almost 7 miles per hour, finishing first with a time of 56 minutes and 34 seconds among the men, and Stephanie Schell led the women with a time of 1 hour, 3 minutes, and 40 seconds. Thank you to everyone who participated, and I look forward to seeing you at future races. As many of you know, rain during RiverFest prompted the postponement of the 17th annual Duck Splash race until June 15th, when things went off without a hitch. The 6th through 10th place finishers were Ian Morrison, Daryl Oreski, Skylar Hilliard, Ann Cruz, and Melissa Goebel, all of whom won $20. 2nd through 5th place winners were Beneranda Light, Melissa Callahan, Smokey Harnett, and Greg Sager, who received $100 each. And our grand prize winner of $500 was Kathy Madigan. Thank you to everyone who participated in this fundraiser for the Occoquan nonprofit Patriots for Disabled Divers, a 501c3 nonprofit that uses scuba as a therapeutic tool for wounded warriors. A special thanks as well to volunteers Bob, William, Michael, Barb, Sarah, and Zoe for helping out on this popular annual event. Last, I want to mention a new museum exhibit in our area. As many of you know, this year begins the commemoration of the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution, and this past Saturday I had the opportunity to view a new exhibit at Williams Ordinary in Dumfries on the role of Prince William County in the American Revolution. Williams Ordinary is a county-owned historic property, and I serve on the board of two nonprofit organizations that have contributed funds for the project, of which the exhibit is a part: the Prince William Historic Preservation Foundation and Historic Prince William. The exhibit, which does not take long to see, is quite interesting and offers what I suspect is little-known historical information about our county. At the moment, the exhibit can only be viewed by appointment, but I encourage you to take the time to do so. To arrange a time to visit, simply call the Ordinary's general number, 703-792-4754. Access is free. Again, the number is 703-792-4754. Since we're talking about the commemoration of the American Revolution, in our history segment this episode, we'll discuss the anniversary this Tuesday of a famous event from the period, the Battle of Bunker Hill. The battle was fought on June 17, 1775. At the time, the American colonial forces were besieging Boston following the earlier battles at Lexington and Concord in April. A few days before the battle, the leaders of the colonial army learned that the British were planning to send troops from the city to occupy the surrounding hills, and thus, with this vantage point, gain control of Boston Harbor. Approximately 1,000 men, including some free and enslaved African Americans from Massachusetts and Connecticut, according to one source more of an armed mob than a military unit, under the command of William Prescott occupied two of the hills in response. When the British learned of this, they launched an assault on June 17th. Twice the British were driven back until during the third attempt the colonial forces ran out of ammunition and were forced to retreat. Although the British won the battle, it turned out to be a Pyrrhic victory, for in the bloody engagement the frontal assaults resulted in far more British casualties than American. The British suffered more than 200 dead and more than 800 wounded, including a significant number of the British officer corps then in America. It turned out to be the highest number of casualties suffered by the British in any single engagement during the entire war. British General Clinton, knowledgeable of the concept of a Pyrrhic victory, wrote in his diary, quote, "A few more such victories would shortly put an end to British dominion in America." End quote. American casualties were approximately 450, with 140 killed. At the time of the battle, George Washington had not yet assumed command of colonial forces, but was on his way to do so when he received word of the battle while in New York City. Some assert that the costly nature of the battle made the British more cautious in their planning and maneuvers, and contributed to their policy of hiring Hessian auxiliaries to increase their numbers. On the American side, though recognized as a defeat, the engagement provided hope that militia forces could stand up to the British when properly supplied. That's the intro sound for our Rumor Mill Shredder segment. This is where we pay homage to the fact that while for much of its history Occoquan was a prosperous mill town, the only mill in operation today is the Rumor Mill. Here we take on urban legends, myths, rumors, or other similar topics that need straightening out. This episode, we're going to stay on the theme of the American Revolution and take this opportunity to tackle two myths about the Battle of Bunker Hill. First, some of you may recall from grade school that the Battle of Bunker Hill was the site of the famous command, quote, "Don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes," end quote. A variety of eyewitness accounts allegedly attributed this command to a variety of different people at the battle, but scholars tend to think this was all nothing more than a legend. Although it is interesting to note that the saying may have originated with a similar command attributed to the Swedish king and general Gustavus Adolphus in the early 17th century. With the Swedish king and general widely admired, variations of his phrase were allegedly used by British General James Wolfe at the Battle on the Plains of Abraham for control of Canada, as well as by Prince Charles of Prussia and Frederick the Great, all before the American Revolution. So who knows, perhaps an American officer with a knowledge of military history did utter the command. A well-known documented myth about the Battle of Bunker Hill, however, is that it took place on Bunker Hill in the first place. Bunker Hill was, in fact, the original objective of the forces involved, but most of the action actually took place on nearby Breed's Hill. It was here, after some modest work was done on Bunker Hill, and following disagreement among colonial commanders, that the primary colonial redoubt was built, closer to Boston and on a site considered more defensible. There the square redoubt was built approximately 130 feet on a side, with ditches, and earthen walls about 6 feet high, with a wooden platform inside on which men could stand to fire. To attack up Breed's Hill, the British had to navigate through unharvested, waist-high hayfields, as well as rail fences, while burdened with gear and in hot woolen uniforms. So why did history come to know the engagement as the Battle of Bunker Hill? According to the American Battlefield Trust, a couple of factors contributed. First, the colonial commander William Prescott was ordered to fortify Bunker Hill, but instead chose Breed's Hill. Second, a British map of the battle reversed the names of the two hills. And so today, although monuments to the engagement appropriately reside on Breed's Hill, we still know the confrontation as the Battle of Bunker Hill. Now for upcoming events in town. From 4 to 6 p.m. on Friday, June 20th, Leaf and Petal will offer a flight of teas. Sip on some tea, mingle, and shop exclusive monthly deals. Afterwards, consider coming to the town's monthly trivia night in Rivermill Park. The fun begins at 6:30, and the theme for the night is The Great Brain Bake-Off. On Saturday, June 21st, from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m., Occoquan's Art Galleries will be launching the town's inaugural Art Walk. This quarterly event is a joint effort of the town's art galleries and will include demos by local artists, studio tours, games, prizes, and refreshments. Then, on Sunday, June 22nd at 5 p.m., Madigan's Waterfront Restaurant will host another murder mystery dinner. For more information on these and other activities in Occoquan, go to www.visitoccoquanva.com/events. Again, that's www.visitoccoquanva.com/events. Last, this Thursday is the federal holiday known as Juneteenth, which commemorates the day in 1865 when Union General Gordon Granger, after landing on the island of Galveston, ordered the final enforcement of the Emancipation Proclamation in Texas at the end of the American Civil War. Prince William County will be holding a Juneteenth and Me festival at one county complex from 4 to 9 p.m. This brings us to the end of this episode of the Occoquan Radio Podcast. Make sure you don't miss an episode by searching for us on the podcasting app of your choice and hitting the subscribe button. I'm your host, Ernie Porta. Thank you for listening.